by the way.
It's water. Okay, great. Good job. Hello, guys. Welcome to Time Tuesday to the Woman Bring Your Own Plate. This series has been amazing, and I am so glad to have the opportunity to sit down with one of my friends. We're going to call her the closer. To close out this series, Amanda and I are high school classmates. We just reconnected a couple of years back, but it has just been amazing to get to know her personally and professionally. Hey, Jada Porter. Just wanted to be able to share a little bit about her and her body of work. We were chatting before we got started, and I wanted to thank her just for her contribution to my life when she released her book, and just how it just really changed the trajectory of my life and everyone who I've gifted the book to thus far, how it has had an impact on them as well. So just a few housekeeping reminders. In the comment section, you will see a pinned post where you can follow Amanda on Instagram, and also a link to her website where you can purchase her book. She has some giveaways that we'll talk about later at the end of this discussion. But we wanted to make sure that you guys were able to stay connected with her. So Amanda Y. Callender,
Yes.
welcome to the time table, my love.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So if you wouldn't mind just introducing yourself to the Make Some Time audience, who you are, what you do, how dope you are, and just be you, baby.
My name is Amanda Callender, and I'm from Newark, New Jersey. Like Latrice said, we went to school together. We went to high school together and middle school, actually, if you think about it.
Yeah.
We spent 6 years together, and I'm married. I have a 5-year-old. And I decided to, I'm a technician by trade. I work for a private company where I repair medical equipment. And when I'm not doing that, I'm being a mom and I'm a writer. And I came upon this book because I was tired of being sad, and I needed some place to put my grief. So I decided to put it in a book.
And it's this book, by the way. It's called
Yes.
Sugar in My Grits. It is absolutely amazing. Being a food blogger, there are certain things that I just do not do, and sugar in my grits that I eat is not something that I'm going to do, but I am advocating for this book hard and heavy because it is probably one of the most authentic things that I have ever read. So we're going to give Amanda the opportunity to share a little bit about the book. But as an entrepreneur, when you shared about the why and just how you got to that part. But as an entrepreneur, I wanted to talk to you about the fact that you are a self-published author.
Yes.
And what that means as an entrepreneur. If you could share a little bit about your why you chose to self-publish your book.
Well, part of it was really, it's not just about being sad and getting happy. I had to put a little bit of my personal story in it and my struggles with grief and very personal issues, how I got healed, how I healed. And so when I put it all in the book, sometimes when you go to publishing companies or when you try to get publishing deals, I didn't want anyone to take away my words. I didn't want anyone to change my words. I wanted to be very intentional in my message and very intentional in what I had to say. So in that I was looking at these big publishing companies and just entrepreneurs in general, and they have things to give their children. I mean, I would publish a book. A publisher would put up all the money, but I still wouldn't own it. It would be their body of work. And in that, I wanted to leave something for my son because my parents didn't do that for me. And my goal always was to be a better parent than that. They weren't the worst parents. They did the best they could with what they had. And I know I had better. So I decided to do a better job. So in that, I decided to self-publish, and you can self-publish and put out one book. But I knew in my soul that I had more than one book in me, And also it would give my family and friends opportunities as well to write books as well under my publishing company. So me and my wife, we talked about it, and she came up with, why don't we just, if you want to make a legacy to our son, just make a publishing company, name it after him. And he can also do things that he want to do with the publishing company. He's an avid drawer. He draws amazing. He has amazing imagination, and he creates this character. So there's going to come a time when he puts out a children's book.
Yeah.
And me and my wife are currently working on a book. So it's just a space. Like rappers start their own record labels as a space to put out their own music that they want to. It's the same thing with my publishing company. I get to put out any literature that I want. I can put out a book of shapes and for $10 and sell it if I wanted to. And it's all mine. Once I pay my overhead, I don't have to pay anybody else. So that was the best part of being, you put up the money for the marketing and all the other business, the housekeeping aspects, but you get all your money back. There's so many behind the scenes and accounting issues when you self-publish under places like Amazon. When you publish under Amazon, you see that $19 price tag on the book. That person's probably only getting $4 off that book.
Yeah.
And I just didn't want to pour my heart and soul into something and not get my worth back.
So was self-publishing something that you considered during the writing process or after?
During.
Okay. And I asked that question specifically because we have, and I wanted to create this space, this, woman bring your own plate. So if there's anyone who may be on the bubble or considering writing their story, and may have that question, should I go with a publishing company or should I self-publish? I wanted the audience to hear, for you, it was actually during the writing process. So I think that that's critical, especially when we're talking about ownership and making.
Yeah, it's very critical that you also have to think about with anything that we do legitimately. You have to think about the overhead that you're going to put out, and it might seem overwhelming at first, but always you have to have faith in what you're putting out, because this book stretched me to the limit financially, because I did the business. I started a legit business. I have a business company. I have to pay taxes. I have an accountant. I have an attorney for contracts. All that costs money. So you have to be prepared to do everything out of your pocket. And it may not seem like you can, but if you believe in your work, I maxed out my credit cards. I pushed everything to the limit. And I put it all on the line. And I remember the day when it was released, and before I actually hit the button, I called my wife. I was in Target, and I said, "We about to do this now. So buckle up, because the ride." And sure enough, it's been an amazing ride. The good news is I've since made all the money back.
Yeah, amen.
plus the profit.
Yeah.
So God has definitely provided, because I had faith in what I was doing. And you have to I put all of myself into it. I just didn't half-ass do it. I put 110%. I poured my life on those pages. I was very transparent. So I think that's what also the authenticity in the book. You can tell when people just throw things together, whether it's clothes, whether it's food, you can tell when someone puts their heart and soul into a product.
Right. So is there anything that you would do differently, having published your first book, for just advice for entrepreneurs? Is there anything that you would do differently? Making the sacrifice, moving in faith, putting up the finances yourself. Is there anything that, given the opportunity, that you would do differently?
Nope.
No.
Everything wasn't perfect, but it aligned when it was supposed to.
Yeah.
Down to, and there's so much that goes into self-publishing. And you can hire people, but I had a vision for everything I wanted to do down to the picture. I took this picture when Jax was, my son is 5 now, and we was on a family vacation in Martha's Vineyard, and he was 1, and I was holding him in my arms, and I was looking over at the lighthouse, and I took the picture. And when I decided to come up with a cover, I wanted to, who doesn't want their picture on the cover of their book?
Yeah.
So my first thing was to put a self-portrait on the book.
Yeah.
But I wanted something to symbolize hope. And that's what, I did a little research, and that's what lighthouse is a symbolization for hope. And so when you think, I thought back over the years that God has been preparing every step of the way. Everything ended up being lined up. So I didn't have to pay anyone to design a cover, because this is my cover.
Yeah.
I mean, the printer that I found, of course, they pick out the font and they design everything else, but everything from the cover to the back to the dedication, every word in this book is mine.
Yeah. My favorite line from this book, it was something that your cousin said to you, is that your lineage is not your legacy. That has been one of those things that has been just ringing in my heart as I'm going through the different phases of my life, being a grandmother. I'm trying to make sure that I'm establishing healthier patterns of just life for the next generations of my family. You know, I talk a lot about my family, and it is who I am. But at the same time, recognizing that it's just some stuff about Treese that I don't want to see in Olivia.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that was my thing. And he saw me struggling, and he took the time to have that conversation with me. He said that you can't carry this family. And he said that the root, if the root of the tree is bad, then the branches are just gonna fall off.
Yeah.
And the root is bad. So he saw me struggling with the name Callender and having to live up to what that was. And then he said, but you can change that narrative.
Yeah.
And my cousin Osman, by the way, he said that to me. And it's since stuck with me. He's a behind the scenes cousin. He just texts me with random gems, and we have these conversations. And he's always been the leader of do your own thing. Do your own thing. You don't have to be what this name says you are.
Yeah.
And that's something that I wanted to change for my son as well.
Yeah, that's good stuff. So guys, welcome to Make Some Time. For those of you that are just now joining us, my guest tonight is Amanda Callender. She is the author of Sugar in My Grits. In the comment section, there is a link to her website where you can purchase a copy of this book. I have read it numerous times. There have been times when I've had to minister to other people, and I've actually read Amanda's words to other people. There was a time when I had to read Amanda's words back to her, because that is the impact that it has had on my life. So make sure that you take a moment to follow her on Instagram and go to her website. Purchase a copy of the book. If you are joining us, make sure that you just type in the comments, just let us know that you're here, so that when after the live is over, we can come back and greet you properly and thank you for joining us. Amanda, you talked about your cousin. My next question is about accountability and the importance of those relationships, and how, as entrepreneurs, the importance of having people in our life that are going to speak to the roots, speak to the things that are not healthy. Can you talk a little bit about if you have a circle of accountability or people that you trust, and what that means to you?
I have a circle that I trust immensely. And I used to be at a point in my life where I realized I wasn't growing. And that's because I had people around me that didn't force me, people that didn't question me, people that didn't tell me this is not the right thing to do. And they just let me go on and do it. And then I found as I started healing, I realized I needed to surround myself with different people who hold me accountable. And the importance of that is you still have to be friends afterward. You have to be able to take constructive criticism. Because I had a friend of mine read the book. She's an attorney, and she had some very harsh criticisms about things I needed to change, things that I needed to put in, things I needed to take out for legal purposes, and things that will push me, and I wasn't ready to be pushed. But things that I needed to talk about and I wasn't ready to talk about. I don't want to give too much of the book away. Right. I don't know, like we're gonna have like a Q&A, but I speak about my parents, and part of that I talk about my parents wasn't in the book. Okay. There was just an issue where I said my parents died, and I hadn't went into detail and just how it affected me. So, and she sat me down and she went back and said, you have to go into more detail about the issues they had and why you were angry with your parents. Right. And you have to go deep into that pain and bring it up. And I said, but I don't want to go there. And she said, you had to. People that I grew up with know my parents and they know my story. She said, you aren't selling this book to your best friend or to me. You're selling this book to someone that doesn't know you, that's going through something, that had a bad week, a bad month, and they're walking through the airport, they're depressed, they're coming from their therapist, and they just happen to be, see this book on the stands, and it's about grief, and they pick up the book and read it. You're talking to a total stranger that needs what you have, so you have to go deep and not write for your circle of friends.
I thank her for doing that, because when I picked up the book, like we shared that we have been in this, we've known each other since the 7th grade. And what was so ironic to me is how so much of this book was parallel to the life that I was living, and had absolutely no knowledge that it was actually happening to you. To
me.
Yeah.
It was something a lot of it I was embarrassed about. Yeah. And being embarrassed at that age, it turned me into a bully, and I wasn't a nice person. And I was struggling in high school at that time. I was struggling with my sexuality, and I wasn't secure, so I took out whatever was going on at home. And with who I was struggling on becoming, I took it out on the weaker people in school. Yeah. And after during writing this book, I've since made amends. Like I reached back to those people and I apologized and I told them why I was the way I was. And I asked for forgiveness. Asking for forgiveness is a part of healing, because sometimes you hurt people and you don't know. So I'm not an angel in my life. And just because I lost some people and I grieved and I wrote an amazing book, it doesn't make me exempt from accountability from other people.
I like that, the fact that the maturity at I think this was probably the only class reunion that we ever had. There was a video of you giving us some encouragement, and you said to growth. Yes. And that had been, kind of how I would communicate to you when you did something that was like, boom, I said, to growth. So to be able to watch you grow into this amazing individual, absent the knowledge that there was some stuff, there was some things.
And the amazing thing about that is not too many people are still friends with people they went to 7th to 8th grade with. Yeah. So we were in the same building at high school from 7th to 8th grade and then on to high school. Yeah. So that was 6 years. And it wasn't, high schools now have 300-400 people. We graduated with 50 people. Yeah. And I believe, notwithstanding death, unfortunate death, I believe I'm still friends with all of those people. Right. Right. And they reached out to a lot of people. I think everyone that we went to school with bought the book and they reached out to me, and the support has just been simply amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. So university high school class of 1992, university high school class of whatever. My mom and dad were actually the first graduating class of the program that we went to.
No way.
It was at Shabazz, and it was called School Within a School.
I remember that.
Yeah. So my mom and dad, I think my dad may have been the first class and my mom was the year after. So just that legacy of that program and the amazing individuals that it has produced.
It has. It produced the guy that wrote the foreword.
It produced the guy that wrote the foreword and
the doctor.
the doctor, the three doctors. And
yes.
We have artists and we have, doctors and nurses and lawyers, and just our school was a place of education, but it was really our community because we were together. We talk, my kids, they ride the school bus, the yellow bus. We were on public transportation with one another. And oftentimes, we were security. We were the people who had the lunch and the snacks and, all those, whatever was going to happen, we all did it together.
It happened to us together.
It happened to us together. So I thank God for growth. And I thank God for this opportunity just for you to be able to see my face and hear my voice and remind you that I love you. And
I love you too.
So we're going to keep moving. Hey, Laquita, we got Shonda Brown. Mina is here. So University High School, we love you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in to Make Some Time. So we've talked about our faith, and we have these deep discussions. So obedience versus sacrifice. In 1 Samuel 15:22, says, does the Lord delight in burnt offerings as much as obeying the Lord? To obey is better than sacrifice, and to heed is better than the fat of rams. So can you talk to me about your obedience as an entrepreneur? What are some of the things that you identify as obedience? And then what are some of the things that you have identified as a sacrifice?
Obedience, I identify with doing things that that you don't get paid for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You have to have conversations with people without putting the people that need to talk, without putting a timer on, like your therapist, without putting a timer and the price tag on it. Mm-hmm. So, some conversations that I have with people are worth thousands of dollars, but that's not what God told me to do.
Right.
Obedience is not putting my face on the cover when he told me not to, as much as I wanted to.
Right.
Obedience is saying yes when you're not in the mood, when you don't want to. And it's not just the conversations, it's to show up, to be in your authentic self outside of being an entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. Every day, like, get up, girl. Obedience is getting up. That's a title of a chapter in the book. Mm-hmm. Obedience is moving when God tells you to move, and you want to question him. Why am I making this particular move? Mm-hmm. And you just have to. Some people think that when you say, I heard God say, you have to be on a level spiritually to understand what that means. A lot of times it's not a voice whispering in your ear, and sometimes it is. Sometimes it's a feeling to know that you're supposed to be somewhere, or you're supposed to be doing something. Right. And you need to move, or else you're gonna miss whatever he has for you. It's like if I hadn't went on this trip to Martha's Vineyard and had such a spiritual experience, then the cover would be different. Right. Yeah. So that's what obedience is for me. Yeah.
I like that when you talked about listening to God's voice. I had the opportunity to spend some time with Shonda one-on-one a couple weeks ago. Mm-hmm. And she and I were just talking about, God's presence and how he has, just been revealing certain things to us. And one of the things I shared with her is that I'm always apprehensive when people says, God told me to tell you.
Right.
God not don't work like that. He knows who he has created in me. So if he is sending someone to reveal it to me, it is already something that he has purposed in my heart. That obedience. And I like
discernment.
yes, what you said about saying yes to the things that that feeling, that this is what God wants you to do, because it's easier for us to say no. It's easier for us to hide behind our fears.
It is.
It's very easy for us to hide behind our fears. So when we're putting that faith in motion, I think that that's where that sacrifice comes in, because we have to be sacrificial to the things that are not going to, we should not be sacrificing ourselves in such a way that we can't move forward. So being
yeah, and for me, sacrifice is not really like walking over burning sand. Sacrifice for me was like you said, we both have 4 days. So if we weren't here talking about a book, sacrifice for me was after I have a full day at work, I go home and I'm a parent. And then once he sleep, those wee hours of the morning is getting the book finished. That's when I finished the book.
Yeah.
I always had this rosy picture like Misery, and you see things on TV and you see people just sit their laptop out with their glass of wine and everything's the air conditioners on and the windows open and they're typing. That wasn't my writing experience. My writing experience was at 3 o'clock in the morning, the what my grandmother called the praying hours, when I could hear the Spirit of the Lord, when my heart was broken, crying and writing and pushing through. That was, and then had to get up and go to work the next day. Yeah. That for me was sacrifice.
And my doorbell just rang, so it obviously is someone who doesn't know me.
I didn't. They better ask somebody.
Know that I am live, so pay no attention to the ring doorbell that just rang.
I did not hear it.
It's here, but he is outside on the patio, so we're just going to ignore that. And
it's live. You didn't hear the cleaning people outside my office, so
it's live. So again, when you're talking about your writing process and just accountability, so I have had to speak to my accountability circle and make sure that they are, and they are women that I'm going to say I didn't choose them, that they were chosen for me. And when we ask people to hold us accountable, that we have to be able to trust them. And I think that that's another part of the obedience as well, because if you've asked God to bring certain things into your life, that you have to be obedient to what he is asking them to ask of you. So, I get one of my friends, are you writing? Because that has been the toughest part for me to finish mine is, it's called Make Some Time, but am I actually making the time to do the things that I should be obedient to? Because if God is not going to give me this blessing and then not provide the space for me to do it. So I thank you for clarifying that and for your perspective, because that also helps me as I'm trying to navigate through these next phases. So
yeah, they're definitely going to be sleepless nights, especially as you get closer. Yeah, as you get closer, it's like a baby, and you want everything to be perfect.
Right.
And you running around, you adding things, you're taking things out, you're adding things, you're taking things out, and then God will literally say, "It is done." Like it's crazy that Easter, like Resurrection Sunday is coming up, and I just used that phrase.
Hallelujah.
It is finished, and literally, I was like, "Okay, that's enough."
Yeah, that's enough. So I had the first iteration of my book, I sent it to the person that I chose to be my editor. And the first thing that she called me and she said, "This is not you. This is a pretty polished package. And you're talking, you're talking about all of these great and rosy things, but I know you." And
you have to be the Tyler Perry woman that comes to the altar from rehab.
Yeah. So
nose running, not.
She said, "No, I'm sorry, but this is not it." And I was like, "Okay, wait a minute. This is not." But again, trusting her to be her authentic self with me forces me to be obedient and know that to trust the process.
Yes, I have those people around me, and we want to keep people around us. We want these glamorous friendships, like we see on TV with the group of, honestly, like Caucasian women that just hang out and they brunch and they never argue and everything's perfect. I don't need those type of friends. We recently, for New Year's Eve, my close-knit group of friends, we all rented a house and we hung out for New Year's Eve, and we was having a conversation about some things that were going on in my marriage that we trust enough with our friends. It just was random, and it came up, and it got into a deep conversation. And another one of my friends, her daughter, she was staring at me. She's in her 20s. She was staring at me, and I was like, "What's the problem?" I think I referred to a woman as a bitch, right? And she looked at me, and I was like, "What's the matter?" And she said, "Can I say something?" I was like, "Of course you can." And she was being respectful because I'm her mom's friend, even though she's an adult. I'm her mom's friend, and I'm older, and she just let me have it in the best way I've been let have in a long time. In a long time. And she made me think over the next couple of days, and I had to end up thinking. I was like, thank you, because I never, like, she made me think, like, well, maybe this has something to do with my mother. You know, like, she really was like, the fact that I seen her face, and I could have just like nixed off her face and like, I don't care what you have to say, or if you agree or disagree about what the connotation of the word that I used or how I used it. This is just how I feel. And I let her speak her piece, and it ended up being an amazing thing. And another one of my friends, they told me some things that I was doing that weren't, I wouldn't say respectful, but I could handle things a better way. And we set up and talked about I don't think we went to sleep.
Right.
And that was the kind of friends that I want. Don't brunch me to death.
Yeah.
Don't movie night me to death. Check me. And then we can have coffee the next day. And I love my tight circle. I love the people in my life.
Yeah. I don't know if my little broke best friend is on here, my daughter, Victoria. She'll be 25 in May. And we had a woman-to-woman conversation recently where I recognized the fullness of her grownness, her grown lady. And had to correct mom on a pattern of behavior that she had seen her entire life. And she asked me, she said, "Mom, aren't you tired of doing that? Aren't you tired? You haven't, you've been doing this for, 25 years, and enough is enough." And I was like, okay, well, wait a minute. I'm the mom. But to be able to see the fruits of my labor,
right?
Make sure that she was empowered and that she knew how to speak up for herself, and for her to be able to make decisions independent of what anybody else thought, because ultimately the consequences are yours. So whatever your decision is, and she basically said, "Listen, this is what it is, and it's not going to happen." And I said, "Well, all right then. You hungry?"
Right. And I thank God that you are who you are, because you allow her that space.
Right.
And it wasn't a Daffy Duck moment where his beak was behind him, because that's what has happened to us. I wasn't allowed an opinion. Yeah. I wasn't allowed an opinion. And I struggle with that with my son. And my wife always tells me, my thing was, my parents told me to do something, I did it. I cared about why, but I dared not ask why.
Oh, dear God, no.
I just did it. And he wants to know why.
Yeah.
And I immediately because I said so. And she's like, his brain doesn't work that way. Like, he doesn't want to fear you. He wants to respect you.
Yeah.
And he's genuinely asking why, because then he'll know the next time to do it or not to do it, and the reasoning behind it. And sure enough, it works out that way. He goes back and he'll say, "Well, mommy, you said this happens because that." And then I realized, so he's not being a jerk.
No.
He really, well, he is, but he genuinely wants to know why.
Right. So again, and it's just, how that cycle just continues to roll on. So my mom is on here, and she just actually made a comment about sometimes the talks help. And just my growth pattern to be able to sit down with my mom and actually have a conversation as an adult, and for her
Mhm.
to hear me as an adult and say, okay, let's do this differently. Um,
Right.
it was major. So again, as we're talking about the lineage versus your legacy, actually making changes now so that Victoria's relationship with Olivia is not, the thumbprint of the relationship that my mom had with me and the relationship that she had with her mom, that it doesn't. Now there's some benefits to that because I'm in these pearls today because that's what my grandmother wore, and that is what it is.
Mhm.
But to make sure that the healthy patterns of where we're going are manifested in the future generations of our family. So,
Yeah, and then there's people like me that did that. My mom and dad left before I was able to reach that pinnacle,
mhm,
before I was able to grow enough, and for her to grow enough for us to sit down and have a conversation to be able to express my opinion.
mhm,
And I have feelings about that as well.
yeah,
So there's a lot of resentment, but
mhm,
there was.
yeah,
I would like to think that, and grief doesn't just end. I like to think, I thought that I put it in this book and it's done with, on to the next thing. But grief is a constant thing.
mhm,
You move. A friend of mine, her mother just died yesterday, and I immediately, all these feelings came up about my mother passing away.
right,
And that's the good thing about this book. Some people write books for times
mhm,
that in 20 years you'll find in the 5.99 bin because it's not relevant anymore.
mhm,
That's one thing about this book. It'll always be relevant because you always need to heal from something,
yeah,
whether it's somebody that died, whether it's a friendship, because we don't, that's another misconception, that you have to heal and grieve for everything that's dead. No,
mhm,
when if you and your best friend of 15 years aren't speaking anymore, and you realize that that relationship is over, you have to mourn it. You have to go through the grieving process.
mhm,
You lose a job
yeah,
with COVID.
mhm,
There's so much grieving going on right now, in our own grieving with social media, we're taking on everyone else's grief too. And it's so overwhelming, and we don't have any place to put it.
mhm, mhm.
So I would like to think that that's what the book is for.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So Shonda's comment was building healthy relationships are essential. So
Yes.
you have to have those healthy, but we also have to learn how to be healthy because we have some patterns of behavior that, really are interwoven into the fabric of who we are, but we have to see healthy relationships demonstrated in order to move forward.
Yeah. Yeah. And then a lot of times you don't have examples of what healthy relationships are, and you can kind of grow with the friends. And then that's when, if you don't grow at the same rate,
Mhm,
and then you realize that you want, friendships are like romantic relationships. If you don't grow together, you outgrow the person, and you've moved on.
mhm, mhm.
And people just don't understand, like, holding you accountable is not blowing your vibe. It's not blowing, it's not like, don't disturb my peace. No, I'm not disturbing your peace. I'm holding you accountable for some BS.
Right, right,
And I should be able to do that, and we should pick up tomorrow and continue on with our lives.
right, right, right. That's good stuff, sweetheart. All right. So, my last question, and then we'll talk a little bit. I have a couple of things in Sugar and My Grits. But is there any advice that you would give to another woman uh, about how to overcome a struggle? And it doesn't have to be a specific thing, but there are some basic steps that I think that we have to embrace in order to overcome. And that kind of
Um,
goes back to your get up girl.
yes. Um, it is, it starts with spirituality. I think women have a different spirituality than men, because in my opinion, we carry a different load than men. So we go to God differently. Men are perceived to be the heads of households when they only claim that when it's beneficial. And women are made up differently than men. We have all these hormones going on at different times of the month. And we need to be able to move through that.
Right.
And that's where you come in at with Make Some Time. I've learned in my grief and overeating and depression, you feel horrible afterwards.
Yeah.
So what you eat directly affects your hormones, and your hormones being balanced in turn puts you in a better mood and allows you to move through life better. So I think it would be eating better.
Yeah.
Focusing on your spirituality, and it could be whatever religion. I'm not talking about, but it doesn't have to be Jesus Christ. It could be Allah. It could be Buddha. Anything that you believe in, a higher power that makes you a better person.
Right.
You need something like that in your life.
Yeah, I think that's critical, especially during these times. My pastor talked about, as we got into the thick of the quarantine, and how important it was for us to have those healthy patterns of behavior prior to going into COVIDicus. Because if we didn't already have that going in, a lot of us struggled longer and harder as the days and weeks and months progress. So making sure
it definitely revealed to a lot of people are.
Absolutely.
In more ways than one. It revealed the type of friend you are. It revealed the type of employee you are. It revealed the type of parent you are. It revealed the type of spouse you are. It revealed the type of daughter you are. COVID, I lost my brother, so it's hard for me to say that COVID needed to happen. But as the Catherine shared something had to break.
Something had to break. Yeah.
Something had to break for people to reach a point where they need to be, and they don't understand that. And I don't mean that. I hate when someone dies and someone tell you it's God's will. That's the hardest thing to tell someone. I just lost someone, but in all the way things works, something has to break. And God has tried to get your attention other ways.
Ooh, my.
That you didn't pick up on. It's like Bruce Almighty when he's driving, he's like, God, send me a sign. He's running all the stop signs. And then when you hit that brick wall, and Jesus will tell you, I told you so.
Yes, he will.
He'll help you up. He'll tell you, I told you so. So COVID kind of just, for me personally, it revealed to who people are around me. And it was challenging because I planned this book for 2-3 years. Never in a million years did I think I had glamorous idea of I'm going on this world tour of book signings and traveling and meeting people and hugging people and having this Oprah Winfrey, Michelle Obama get up girl moment. And it didn't happen on COVID, but it happened in my inbox.
Come on, somebody.
It happened in my inbox and not in person.
Yeah.
And I didn't, and that was word of mouth.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how many books I sold until I got my end of the year tax statement. And I just was signing them and writing messages to people. I was just doing the work. And then I kept my head down and I just did the work, and I was transparent about it. You're my Facebook friend. I try to be, I go through some stuff and I'm honest about the stuff I go through. Because I don't want anyone to think that that I'm some guru. I wrote this book. No, I learn every day. I read a lot. I pray a lot, and I struggle a lot. But I'm transparent in that struggle. So when you see the finished product, you can say, Mandy worked hard for that.
Yeah. All right. So I got one part in this, and I have this page. I usually, when I can open it because it's fold it. And it kind of talks back to that original question about the lineage versus legacy. And in the book, it says, I believe we inherit negative characteristics and preferences from our parents and are prone to pass them on to our kids. What is the one thing that as a parent, you have decided that it's something that you do that you will not pass on to Jax?
I yelled to get my point across.
Ah.
And my grandmother did it to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I do it to him.
Mm-hmm.
And for him, he's an empath.
Mm-hmm.
So his feelings are hurt and he's vocal about it.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe mine was, I just wasn't as vocal about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I hear him speaking to my wife about how I hurt his feelings.
Mm.
And also that mixed with that, I do that because not only did my grandmother do it to me, but I realized that it's from fear.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So normally when I'm telling him something, I'm not screaming at him to pick up his toys because kids are gonna leave toys around.
Mm-hmm.
But if he's doing something and he's gonna hurt himself,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm afraid,
Mm-hmm.
and he keeps doing it, the fear causes me to yell.
Right.
But he doesn't understand that. For example, I had a nephew that drowned
Mm-hmm.
accidentally.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm overprotect. If I tell you why we went to the doctor today, my wife is already upset because my son had a blister on his toe from his shoes was too tight or something. She's like, "Are you seriously gonna go?" Because I'm afraid.
Right.
I pray and I pray that God removes it as he gets older.
Mm-hmm.
But I lost my nephew and my fear causes me to yell.
Yeah.
And my grandmother was a yeller. So I'm trying to work on it because I don't want, and he does it. Sometimes I need to work. I've done it, so I need to stop because he does the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And when he feels like I'm not listening to him and he's 5 and I'm back to, you're 5, you shouldn't be yelling back. And it's like two, and Michaela's like, well, how old are you? Like you actually, like, look at yourself. You're having a yelling match with a 5-year-old. And he has to have the last word. And that's so bad because he was right about something and he argued with his teacher. I'm not saying we shouldn't question the teacher, but it was something that didn't really matter.
Mm-hmm.
And not only does he, when he's right, he wants you to admit that
right.
he's right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And he's 5.
Good luck.
So I have to, so it's like steering the Titanic. I'm the Titanic and Kayla's just like the tide.
Mm-hmm.
And she's just, her job is, I wouldn't want to be her. Her job is to steer me from being, I remember, I never forget, I don't know if I tell people the story all the time. We have a group chat with her, my cousin Tracy, and we were talking about family and the negative attributes and things. And she said that my only job is to make sure that he doesn't turn out like you guys. And I felt that.
Ooh. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Maurice has had to embrace or acknowledge some characteristics of my family, and the way that he delicately puts it, he goes, "This is just, I don't understand this."
Yeah, it's just
I don't understand. And when he's saying that, it's not that he doesn't understand. He wants me to explain. He's saying, I don't understand it and I don't want to understand it. So stop.
Right. And neither should you. You should not think this is normal.
Right. You should stop. So
yeah. Yeah.
So guys, this has been a great session. Mandy, thank you so much for making some time to come to the Make Some Time table, to bring your own plate, to control how you are going to be served, to talk about the difference between obedience and sacrifice, your lineage versus your legacy, accountability, and just all the things that make you Mandy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just been amazing. So is there anything that you would like to say to the Make Some Time audience as far as what's on the horizon, what's coming up?
Well, as far as this book, the surprise in the book was a lot of people write a book and they tell you to do the work, but I give you the opportunity in the back of the book to actually do the work. Michelle Obama put Becoming out, and then a year later she put out a Becoming workbook. I like to think that that's all included in the book. Someone actually told me that I don't charge enough. But it was my first project. I'm very proud of it. The year anniversary is coming up. So I'm still thinking of a way to celebrate that. I wanted to do an in-person event, but that's still not gonna, I'm still not comfortable with that.
Right.
So, but I haven't decided yet. I'm working on something with the year because it doesn't, like I said, grief doesn't stop. And I don't want people to be thinking, oh, this book again. This book will always be relevant. So I will always be talking about it, even when I move on to my next project. Yeah, which is a great segue. So my next project is I'm married to a woman, and there was a misconception about same-sex couples about who should physically carry the baby. And I know it was like a big surprise to my friends. What we did was, I think my wife has talked about opening her fertility issues. And when we were talking with the doctor, and I like, wait a minute, I can do this. So when we embarked on that journey, we only told a few people. So no one knew. And when we sent out invitations to the baby shower, they still didn't know. So people didn't know I was pregnant until they showed up at our baby shower. Wow. And right. So from the time of when we was trying to conceive up until the time he was born, through parenting, some people look at same-sex couples like they're watching this thing like the zoo exhibit. Like there's different things that go on. Right. It's the same thing that goes on. But anyway, we had so many questions in that process. So we decided to do a joint project together. And we talk about our adventures in conceiving and having Jacks and the struggles. This was more so an opportunity for her to get her story out, because so many women deal with infertility and they deal with it silently. Yeah. And people ask you awkward questions and they don't know how to. So this particular project, she's doing her writing now. It's more of something that's for her. Yeah. So I think that is great, because when we are placed in positions where you're uncertain about something, and we talked a little bit about this in the pre-live about how our business becomes our ministry and how it needs to make an impact and to be able to help people. So to be able to create a safe space for that dialogue to take place, and to help other people who may have been or may be going into that situation. So I wish you guys the best in that endeavor. I look forward to it. As far as the Make Some Time audience, you are offering something to our viewers tonight. I am. I think I said, I can't remember, but correct me. I think it was the first 2 or 3 people that followed my Instagram. I would send them a free signed copy. It was 2, by the way. It was 2. Okay, so the first 2 people follow my Instagram, and then I just DM me. I will send you a free signed copy, and then after that, I think it was whoever followed your page or whoever followed our pages after that, it would be a discounted copy. You have to run that. You have to. I got it. I can't remember.
Insights. I could do that.
Yeah, there was definitely something free.
Mm-hmm.
I see. I think that's Shonda.
Mm-hmm.
So I and that was the thing. That's the thing. Like in the middle of a pandemic. I'm sorry, we go back to business. I released this in the middle of a pandemic, so I had to come up with great marketing strategies.
Mm-hmm.
So when you offer, this book is on Amazon and it's $19,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody has Prime.
Mm-hmm.
So you're gonna get this from Amazon for $19. Why should you buy this from me and pay for shipping?
Mm-hmm.
Well, because you get a signed copy.
I got mine.
And I don't just sit around with stacks of books and write my name in it. I kind of let God use me a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I write a little something to somebody that might be going through something. So even if you, and I've had a lot of people come to me and say, you know what, this was an amazing book. I need one for this person. This is what they're going through. Can you send them a book?
Yeah.
So even if you, and I would like people to leave reviews on Amazon too, if possible.
The Amazon review. Okay.
Yes. So
when I purchase the book, when I buy books, I usually buy one for myself and buy one as a gift, and not knowing what the story was. Last year, my nephew drowned on his 18th birthday, and your book came out at it was in April.
It was June.
June. Okay. So he passed away in April, and the book came in June. And his girlfriend, who had been really struggling with grief, it was to her. And I, gave her a copy of the book because I had already read it. And just, again, the parallels of our lives and the things that we've been through, and just the raw, because the pain was still so raw. For people like yourself who have had to grieve during COVIDicus, drive-throughs and things like that, it was so raw, but your words helped to bring it in perspective. And I had to get up. I had to get up because there were people counting on me. I had to get up because I needed me.
Yeah.
So, as my
and then you have to sometimes you can't get up though, Cheese.
Right. So again,
and I don't mean that can't as in don't want to. I mean physically you can't get up.
Can't.
You have to have someone come get you.
Come get you.
And you need those people around to come get you. My book came out in June. And I lost my brother in August. And so I love the fact that so many people said, you got this, girl. You wrote this book, including you. That was like the best thing ever. The video you sent me, and just people reaching out to me saying, like, you wrote a book on grief. You got this. And I want to say it hurts so differently all over again.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that I looked around and I said, you know what, I do have the tools, but I found myself back on the floor again. And this time, my friend had to come get me. Get you a friend that's gonna come. And my friend, I was having a really rough day right before his services, and she called and was like, what are you guys doing? And Kayla was like, well, I'm gonna wash some clothes. Amanda's just laying in the bed. And my friend Rachel called and said, I'm gonna come to my house. I'll wash the clothes and she can lay in my bed. And Kayla, so I have to get her up and get her dressed first. So my wife got me up, got me dressed and Jax, and we went over to my friend Rachel's house, and I laid in her bed, and they fed me. And when it was time to go, I had my bag of clothes, and I got home. I took a shower, and I went to get some. This woman folded my underwear.
You got to get you a friend. That's a real friend. That's a real friend. I mean, I have two solid sisters here in Jacksonville, because I'm away. Y'all are all in New Jersey. I'm here. And in my time, we're still in mask. And at that point we couldn't, touch or hug or anything. And it's like, okay, well, come, if you need us to come get you, we'll come get you. But we were in the parking lot. We would take out and go sit in the parking lot and
we
just,
did that.
and just to be able to, because I'm still in ministry and I'm still serving and I'm still doing all those other things. So I'm pouring out, and without them, my cup would have never had the opportunity to be full. So, Shonda is like a spiritual ninja, because she'll pop into my that's
one thing about Shonda. Like, I knew, like, when we was in high school, like there was always something special about her. And I had no idea that she was going through the things that she was going through as well.
Yeah.
And she turned out to be an amazing servant of God. I think for me it was her voice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not only could she sing, but no matter what, like, she's always had this calming voice, like, no matter what was going on.
Yeah.
Like, I can't think of a time that I've heard her raise her voice.
No. So she'll text me just random, 3:00 in the morning, and she doesn't know that I'm awake at 3:00 in the morning.
Well, do we need to get a 3:00 team? Because I'm up. I'm up.
3:00 in the morning, and she'll text me something random, and I'm sitting in the bathroom, and I'm like, okay, well, So again, to be able to have those people in your life that will, in your time of need, come and get you, pick you up, fold up your underwear, and make sure that your eyebrows are waxed, because you can't go no further. Like, hey, you need to do something about it.
People that will get you together. And I don't know why a lot of women have an issue with being servants to other women.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is. Like, help your sister. Go clean her house.
Yeah. Go
cook for her.
That's it.
We got to get away from this. I think it's social media, and everything seems to be a competition. Everyone's trying to keep up with the Joneses, and the Joneses is barely making it.
The Joneses is barely making it. The Joneses,
right? So
listen,
we need as much as I've used social media to sell my book, I advocate for taking breaks just as much.
Yeah.
Because it's a cesspool of negativity, and it does not help your mental space at all.
Yeah. So that I'm grateful for safe spaces like the Wellness. That's always a place of positivity. Queen Crystal is on tonight, so that want to give her a huge shout out for creating that space and giving us a place to come and actually sit down and get filled, and we start the week on Monday, and it just flows. And
she just like up and started that, and I in the midst of it, I'm getting my memories on Facebook now. And the funny thing is, the background has changed so much until now. It used to be like you see a picture of her sofa, and she'd just pop in with her car, good morning, and that's where she started. How we started, how it's going.
Yeah, how it's going.
And right. And you can tell that she didn't have a script. She didn't have a plan. All she had was God telling. That was her being obedient. The Wellness is obedience.
It is obedience, absolutely. So I need you. I talked about it a couple months ago, and she still has not heard from the Lord. So I'm going to need you to touch and agree with me on one specific thing that used to occur in the Wellness, where it got me together, which was Loud and Live Fridays.
Yeah, we need to get that back.
We need to get it back. And I'm not asking her to do it every Friday. I'm not asking her to do it. Let's just go old school one time for the Loud and Live Friday.
Maybe her spirits need to be lifted.
Maybe her spirit, you know what? Queen Crystal.
Because she was like, she doesn't fake it.
No. Not at all.
When we in there, man, that was my jam. Loud Friday would be the club.
Right.
But you have to be in the mood to do that.
So I pray.
So maybe she's not in the mood and she doesn't even know it, because if you ask somebody to do something more than once and they haven't done it, maybe she wants to, but her spirit is probably like, she needs to be lifted. So maybe I'll reach out to her and lift her up.
This is only my second time asking her though. So we're just putting it in there.
maybe I'll see. I'll talk to her and see, like, you know, maybe her spirit needs to be lifted, because everyone needs other things besides, you know, you're doing a great job. You know, like they need to be told that they're needed. Like, we need you to do what you're doing, and not just from the regulars like you. I know you're very consistent with I love you. I'm here so you can see my face, let you know I'm thinking about. I sit at my head, I'm praying for you.
That's all I got.
And that's what's genuine about you. And maybe she just needs, like, everyone, even though people say thank you, and what she's taking on is a big task. So maybe she just needs to I'm gonna reach out to her and tell her that I love her, and, you know,
See, that's why I needed you. She just said it in the comments. You got it. We have heard from Queen Crystal.
What she said?
You said you got it.
See, we give her flowers. Here's your flowers. Give her flowers, like, because that takes a lot.
Yes, it takes a lot. So again, just the way that she has carried that ministry forward. And Pastor Taylor talked about, you know, creating spaces for other creatives like myself and Etta to be able to come on and share, and to be able to get filled up and make new friends and see, you know, different comments and things like that. It's been amazing. So, you know, social media has its downfalls, but if you found a safe space to get in and get, you know, connected and just be encouraged, I would encourage, if you're going to be on social media, to find someplace to go.
It can definitely be uplifted, because there's so many, just as it's a balance. Just like there's a certain amount of evil in the world, you have to be able to, I was laughing, saying I'm like the golden child. I have to be surrounded by good at all times. So I don't get in trouble. I remember having a dream. It was a nightmare, actually. And I was running through this burning house and Satan was chasing me. And my only defense was to say the Lord's Prayer. And I couldn't remember the Lord's Prayer in the dream.
Oh, Lord.
2 days later was my birthday, and my sister sent me a gift. I hadn't told her about the dream yet. So when I opened the gift, I'm bawling, crying. It was this bracelet, and has the Lord's Prayer written on the bracelet.
How about that?
You just got to get to a space where you connected.
Yeah, get connected. So Mandy, we are well over the time that we have allotted for this.
As always,
right, we're Pisces. We can talk all day and all night. So I am encouraging the Make Some Time audience to please get connected with Amanda on Instagram. She is Amanda Y Callender, and Callender is Callender on Instagram, and her website is JDelanoPublishing.
No, JDelanoPublishing.
I'm sorry, JDelanoPublishing. And don't take anything that I'm saying. Look at the pin post because I typed it there correctly. So guys, thank you so much for tuning in.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being the closer and closing out the series. I think I'm going to have to get you something that has the closer on it. So I like that. All right, guys, we will chat soon. Take care. Hold on.
Bye, y'all.